Part 3, New Reality. Part 3 begins with Zeland's account of a 2012 conference in Biarritz, France, the Quantum and Fragility Symposium, where he was invited to speak, and what he presented there became the spine of the book's most important part, the second half. It's the most polemical section, and perhaps the most urgent. The technogenic system. Zeland introduces the technosphere, a concept alongside the more familiar biosphere. The biosphere is the living system of the planet. The technosphere is everything civilization is built: devices, infrastructure, food processing, media, communication networks. The technosphere is not neutral. It has developed its own logic, the logic of the system that it optimizes for its own continuity and growth, not for human flourishing. At a certain point in civilization's development, the technosphere crossed a threshold and began developing independently of human will, like a tumor with its own agenda, or a parasite. This is not a conspiracy. There is no shadowy group orchestrating it. The Bilderberg Club, the world government, rumors. Zeland treats these as the system's own trick for diverting attention. The people in power are no less puppets of the system than anyone else. The first one it swallows are its own operators. The system is synergistic. It self-organizes towards a stable configuration in which human beings serve as controllable components, batteries in the matrix sense, rather than as free agents. The tools of control. The primary tools or mechanisms are attention management and food. Attention management. The information flow generated by the technosphere produces a specific effect, the capture of attention. A significant portion of a person's available awareness is perpetually leased to the information web. Notifications, news cycles, social media, entertainment, controversy. What's not captured by the feed is often blocked by synthetic food. The result is that only a fraction of a person's consciousness is free at any moment. And that fraction is what the system uses to perform functional duties. Food. Synthetic processed chemically manipulated food, particularly products containing baker's yeast and GMOs, causes direct neurological impairment. Consciousness becomes clouded. Energy is suppressed. The person functioning on supermarket food is not operating at full capacity. This is not incidental. It is the condition the system requires. Not so sick that they can't work, but not so well that they have free energy to think clearly about what's happening, and honestly, to act on it also. Yeast, the specific argument. Zeland spends considerable time on baker's yeast, introduced after World War II. Unlike natural fungi, thermophilic yeast survives in the body, suppressing beneficial gut microflora, and in the experiments of German professor Hermann Wolf, creates an environment that accelerates cancer cell reproduction. Zeland conducted a simple home experiment: scaled pieces of commercial white bread, store-bought yeast-free bread, homemade yeast bread, and homemade sourdough bread in separate sterile containers for 2 weeks. The 3 commercial products grew multiple varieties of mold. The sourdough bread was unchanged. His conclusion: what passes for yeast-free bread in stores typically isn't, and homemade yeast bread grows the same mold patterns as commercial white loaves. The sourdough made from natural leavening and whole grain flour is a categorically different process. GMOs, the broader picture. Genetically modified organisms are addressed as both a health issue and a sovereignty issue. GMO seeds do not reproduce, meaning the seed bank belongs permanently to the corporations that engineered them. Countries that adopt GMO agriculture surrender food security to those corporations. The health effects, general immune suppression, infertility, cancer, acceleration, cognitive impairment, are documented in non-industry funded research, but aggressively suppressed in mainstream science. And Zeland argues that's a systemic product. The bees dying, the soil dying, the crops dying. These are biosphere signals that the technosphere is not compatible with living systems. The illusion of herd safety. The title concept, herd safety, is the collective assumption that if everyone is doing something, it must be safe. Everyone eats processed food, everyone carries a phone, everyone submits to the same medical protocols, so it must be fine. But the herd is walking toward a cliff, and the people who fall off do so quietly, one at a time, out of sight. Their individual tragedies don't disturb the herd's sense of safety because the herd never sees the accumulation. The statistics: 300,000 cancer deaths per year in Russia, 500,000 in the US, rising every year. 40% of Europe clinically mentally ill. 40,000 suicides annually in Russia alone. They're not visible in daily life because each one of those is someone's private catastrophe. The illusion is self-reinforcing. The system's own cognitive fog prevents people from connecting the dots. The person eating synthetic bread 3 times a day is not in a position to clearly examine whether synthetic bread might be related to their chronic fatigue, because their thinking is partially impaired by the synthetic bread. KLEIB, the convention. KLEIB is Zeland's proposed response, not a political movement, not a confrontation with the system. He is explicit that fighting the system is as pointless as tilting at windmills. The system cannot be dismantled from the outside, and attempting to do so only entangles you further in it. The alternative is a biosphere oasis, creating within your own world a domain of natural food, clear consciousness, genuine information, and authentic relationships. The demand side of economies means that as more people choose biosphere products become available. The system cannot resist the pressure of a large enough market shift. 3 founding principles of KLEIB. Number 1, eliminate GMOs. That includes taking synthetic vitamin C. It's all grown, it's black mold on GMO corn. Get rid of the synthetic chemicals, including synthetic vitamins, and processed food from your diet. Choose natural and organic whenever possible. This is the most direct act of personal sovereignty available. Use mobile phones only as phones. Keep them away from your body and especially your head. Use wired headsets. Electromagnetic radiation from mobile networks is an uncontrolled global experiment whose consequences will emerge around 2035. Consciously dose your information input. Do not absorb the feed passively. Observe from a position of detachment rather than react from inside it. 3 principles. Awareness. I know what I'm doing and why. Observation. I watch without drowning. Selectivity. I choose what to engage with. Part 4. New Arkham. Arkham is a 4,000-year-old Bronze Age settlement discovered in the Russian Ural steppes in 1987. It is a mathematically sophisticated circular city whose architects demonstrated astronomical knowledge and engineering capabilities that contemporary science cannot fully explain. For Zeland, it is a symbol of a fork in the road: civilizations that chose to develop in harmony with the biosphere, and the civilization that chose the technogenic path. We are on the technogenic path, and its consequences are now visible. Lost children. Humanity, Zeland argues, is lost, not defeated, lost. We don't know who we are, where we came from, how the ancient structures were built, what the symbols meant. We have blank spots everywhere we should have origin stories. We're children who woke up and found the parents gone, having to figure out how to manage on our own, except we haven't fully woken up, so we're managing in a half-dream, mired in wars, crisis, illness, and anxiety that wild animals and plants do not experience. Wild things don't get the diseases of civilization. Domesticated animals and cultivated plants do, because they've been separated from the conditions they evolved for. Humans are in the same situation, no longer wild, no longer adapted, living in an artificial environment that this organism was never designed for, and in wondering why everything aches. The sea student. Zeland uses sea student Troknik in Russian, to name a specific social type, the mediocrity, who do not only know much, but is aggressively committed to defending their ignorance. C students from science are the ones who appear on television to debunk any challenge to systemic orthodoxy, not with deep knowledge, but with the prestige of institutional affiliation. They're the ones who successfully blocked EM technology, natural farming practice, sourdough advocacy, and non-industrial funded cancer research. They are not villains, they are the system's own immune system, arising naturally to protect the equilibrium that keeps them comfortable. Those would be kind of like you would see any person could turn into Agent Smith in the Matrix. EM technology. Effective microorganism technology is presented as an example of what happens when you work with nature rather than against it. Rather than killing soil biology with chemical fertilizers and deep plowing, EM technology seeds the soil with carefully selected microorganism cultures. Soil that is biologically dead can be restored in a few years to loose living tilth a meter deep. Crop yields increase dramatically, inputs decrease dramatically, animal health improves without antibiotics. The technology exists, it works, and it is not widely implemented because it contradicts the chemical agriculture business model, which is a systemic product, not a conspiracy. The sourdough bread section. The final selection of the book is detailed practical instructions for making 100% rye sourdough bread from sprouted grain at home. This is not metaphorical. Zeland gives full recipes, equipment recommendations, temperature specifications. Careful, it's probably in Celsius. I just got a new pan. It was Celsius. I made my sourdough bread at 240 degrees. Well, let's just say it wasn't very good. So if it's in Celsius, please convert. The argument for why this matters: flour products are an essential staple of virtually every culture. The system cannot not control them. Thermophilic yeast and GMO additives in commercial bread are not incidental. They are their primary vector through which the system's most effective tool, food-induced cognitive suppression, reaches everyone 3 times a day. Making your own bread from sprouted rye grain with natural sourdough severs this particular connection to the trough. The recipe requires a home grain mill, a dehydrator, and a bread machine capable of handling heavy rye dough. Sprouting takes 10 to 12 hours, drying takes another 10 hours. The sourdough starter takes 4 to 5 days to establish from scratch, then lives indefinitely in the refrigerator and needs feeding once a week. Why it matters for personal reality management. The transurfing framework requires clear consciousness and available energy. Both are directly compromised by synthetic food. Zeland's argument is that you cannot fully develop your capacity for reality management while running the system's firmware. The bread selection is not a diversion from the main subject of the book. It is a precondition of it. Clean food, clean information intake, deliberate disconnection from the system's attention capture mechanisms. These are the physical foundation on which the metaphorical practices rest. So, I'm sorry, the summary does not include the recipe, but I'm going to give you the best thing for sourdough starter. I have a video somewhere on this, or you can look it up, it's great. The normal technique for sourdough starter is 1 cup of water, 1 cup of flour. Mix them together. The next day you dump out half of it, you put in a 1/2 cup water, 1/2 cup flour. Next day you dump out half of it, 1/2 cup water, blah, blah, blah. I read the best thing once and I've applied it successfully nearly every time. I'll get organic pasta or organic potatoes. I boil them. I then use the pasta or potato water as the water for my starter. So 1 cup of pasta water, 1 cup of flour. Mix that together and let it sit. Usually within 2 days it's bubbling, and then to test if it's good, I do the float test. So I'll take a small spoon of it and I'll drop it into a glass of water. If it floats, there's enough air bubbles to indicate that the bacteria are thriving. And then we're ready to make bread. So much easier.